Nice. Hello and welcome to the ChatGPT for Beginners free training or free course, basically. So this is quickly a 45-minute introduction to ChatGPT, the basics, get you introduced to how to create prompts and how to use it with like a digital notebook, so that your goal at the very end is you know how to use ChatGPT for your business or your personal life. So super easy. It's just going to be a free introduction training to get you more familiar with ChatGPT. I did this webinar this morning, and if you found this helpful, there'll be a link in the bio where you could go and get access to this free training plus oh, I need the other one too. Actually, I could pull it from here. So you could get access to the free training and then start learning along with me. So let me also grab a cheat sheet in Notion. This is a free course that I put together, and it has all the extra stuff. So let's get started. Okay, starting off, what is ChatGPT? At the end of the day, ChatGPT, if we just go to google.com, what is ChatGPT? ChatGPT is a large language model, and let's see, how do you? So anytime that you've played with large language models, when using either like Siri or like spell check, or you go to Google and you have this auto predict where you type in a word and it's trying to predict what are the next most likely words based on its trained data. That's all these models and what ChatGPT is underneath the hood. It's just fancy auto predict text. That's all. It just tries to predict the next word that you're trying to put in at the end of the day. That's all these things do. They're fancy. They're not conscious or anything like that. So starting off, so ChatGPT, just large language model, just to auto predicts. Let's go into creating I would say like create an account, but if you Google ChatGPT, you'll get their website, and then they have a very simple just login. So you would just go sign up and create an account, create an account, or you could use like your Gmail to kind of log in. It's one less password that you have to remember. And then it will ask you for a phone number, so just to verify you're not a bot. But once you have your email and logged in, then this is the next screen that you see. I don't want to zoom out that much, but let's talk about the layout of ChatGPT. So the navigation. Once you're logged in, you create a free account, and you can do everything I'm doing with the free version. So ChatGPT is broken up into two parts. You have the left-hand side, your chat history. So this is a history. Let's go here. Of all the chat conversations that I've had. So we go through, you can see some are specific to a client I'm working on, some are specific to a project, but when you click on these, they will load the chat history. I'm going to open this one. This one's a big file, so it'll take a moment to load. But this is going to load a conversation that I've been having with ChatGPT around a specific topic. So we have the chat history on the left-hand side, so you could go back to a previous conversation. And on the center, you have your chat. Pretty much this is I would say like chat. We're pretty much like your text messaging a best friend. But think of ChatGPT. Let's actually think about what is ChatGPT. ChatGPT is like a high school intern. That's its best role, or best to describe. It's not going to like build a business from scratch. It's not going to like do your homework for you. You still need to guide it at almost like a high school level as far as like giving instructions to it for it to do the job or task that you want to do. So starting off, now that we did the space, let's go into what is a prompt. So that's pretty much what you're going to be putting in this bar at the very bottom. This bar at the very bottom where it says message ChatGPT. Let's start fresh. So starting fresh, top left-hand corner, it says new chat. We're going to click on that. So it starts a fresh chat. And then it has some like suggestions of like, these are suggestive prompts that you can use. It could write code, write poetry. It could do all fancy stuff. But let's break down what is a prompt. A prompt is broken up into three components. Every prompt has three parts. You have a role, a command, and context. Let's break down what that is. So if I do a role, I can say you are a lawyer. I have a command. Then I'm going to say, try to zoom out. There we go. Command, I'm going to say, write me a terms and conditions to put on landing page, simple, and then a context, which is more information or like local knowledge or pretty much just additional information, whether it be from you or from Google, to kind of like help it refine or give you a much better answer, because we don't want ChatGPT to give us what it thinks its response is. Rather, you want to tell ChatGPT what are some good responses and how it should give you. So context, I'm going to say give it a landing page, and then I'm going to say my business is a e-commerce store that sells, I'm going to say widgets, something simple. So we have our three components of a prompt: a role, a command, and context. So let's put these in ChatGPT to see how we would lay that out. So I'm going to say role, cool, you're a lawyer, comma, take out the context. You are a lawyer, right, and then you have your command, write me a terms and conditions for the page, comma, and then the context, my business is a commerce store. Now, misspelled, so ChatGPT doesn't really care if it's spelled right or if it's spelled perfectly, doesn't matter, thanks to Grammarly. So these are the three components of what goes into a prompt. You give it a role, you're a lawyer, doctor, therapist, life coach, whatever. A command or a task or goal that you want it to do. So I want you to write me a terms and conditions, put it on the landing page. And then lastly, some additional context, extra information, some specificity so that it knows more information of what you're trying to do. So I'm gonna press enter or click on the little up arrow. And let's take a look at, we're gonna get a response pretty quickly. But now let's go into step 2. So we wrote a prompt, but step 2 is, here's what we're looking for. Anytime ChatGPT gives you a response, you want to first say, hey, are you in the ballpark of what I'm looking for? Or did you just go off into left field, into la la land, and you completely missed the mark? Because that lets me know, do I need, it's like when you talk to like a high school intern. Like if I wasn't specific enough about what I'm looking for, I'm going to get a pretty like random answer. But say I wasn't that specific, let's say, no, it's not widgets, or maybe it's not a terms and conditions, it's actually a privacy statement. Clicking this little pencil icon right here allows you to edit your original prompt. I'm going to say privacy policy, and then save and submit. So now we've redone our prompt in 2 ways, and we've gotten 2 responses. You can see them, chat 1 and response 2. Response 1, response 2. Basically what you're looking at when it gives you a response is this in the ballpark of what I'm looking for? Or do I need to go back and be more specific? Most likely, if you're not getting the answers that you want, you need to be way more specific or provide more context in order for it to give you a much better response. So the response that we get, we're like, yeah, cool. This looks pretty. What you're looking for is, can I work with this? I am not looking for ChatGPT to give me everything perfectly right out the gate the way I want it. Highly unlikely. I'm looking for 80%. Did it get close to what I'm looking with? Like, can I work with the information here? And the answer is to say, yes, this is cool. This is roughly what I'm looking for. So now the next step, and this is the most important thing, is having a digital notebook. Doesn't matter what you use. You can use Apple Notes. You can use Evernote. You can use what I use, which is Notion. I'm going to do what is Notion, so that way it brings up their website. So Notion. You could even use Google Docs. Google Docs, Apple Notes, doesn't matter. You want some digital notebook because this is where the magic happens. You're not going to get a perfect response out of ChatGPT. It's going to get you close enough. So let's talk about the next step, which is how to take information out of ChatGPT. So to do that, there's 2 ways. To keep the formatting, you can highlight, right-click, copy, go to your notepad, right-click, paste. It's going to give you this weird paste thing. Cool, and it keeps the formatting. See how this is bold, and then we got some bullet points. Another way And this only works better if it's just text that you're pulling out of. But at the very bottom of the chat, you're going to see this little paste icon. So if you click that button, it's going to copy the entire conversation or that response. And then we go in here and paste, and you can see how it kind of pasted. But let me see if I could paste it with format. No. See how it has the hypertext bolt to do like the formatting, but it doesn't do the formatting. So that's why sometimes it's easier to just highlight it so it gets the bullets and it gets the bold. Highlight that so that when you paste it, it will keep that formatting instead of giving it like the hashtags basically. So that's one tip there. Great. So now I'm going to change examples and go to an email. So because this will make sense for an email, I'm going to say you are a marketer. Write me a cold email to a small business that sells coaching and pitch web development services. Something simple. I just want, what I'm looking for is I want an email as the next example because that's going to make sense for this. Cool. So gave it a new prompt, got a new answer. This is what I want to tweak. Say I'm writing an email to a lead or prospect or to a client, whatever. Give it a response, and ChatGPT is going to give you something very verbose, very broad, very like, so here's another pro tip. We did what is a prompt. Next is, where's my translate? Yeah, translate for average Joe and shorter. Translate for average Joe and shorter. These are my two very favorite prompts so that whatever ChatGPT gives me, if I'm like, yeah, that's like 80%, that's what I'm looking for, it's just too wordy. The first thing I'm going to do is translate for average Joe, because whatever ChatGPT writes, I could say, elevate your coaching business with a professionally crafted online presence. See how it's very just word vomited, and they're like, I don't know what that doesn't make sense. But then it's like, yo, boost your coaching business with a killer website. Awesome. That's a little more straightforward. So translating it for average Joe is a great response to whatever ChatGPT gives you to kind of humanize it, make it more, I want to say slang, but normal. Translate for average Joe is one of the great responses. And then next thing is like, yeah, that's great. But then my next favorite one is shorter. Because usually whatever answer it gives you super long, and it's like, no one is going to write this whole email that's too verbose. So it's like, hey, I'm interested in that. At your company, we do this. Want to talk? Cool, short, straight to the point. But here's the cool thing. This is why using a digital notebook is essential for something like we're working. I don't expect ChatGPT to give me a perfect email right off the gate. Even trying to like, no, change the first sentence, or no, rewrite it. Trying to do all that and try and get the perfect response out is a waste of ChatGPT's time. So you want to copy when you get a response. You're like, yeah, it's like programming. It's like 80% there. I could work with that. I'm going to take that into my notebook, paste it here, because now I can basically like Frankenstein, take pieces that I want and I don't want and improve. So let's say this beginning sentence, I'm like, I don't like that opening. I'm going to take that. And now here's where we get into the next step. This is the follow-up. And the follow-up, now we break it down into kind of like micro tasks. We're like, cool, that's close enough for I want. I'm going to give it another command, which is, here's our next one. This is called the command context hack, or command context format. Kind of made these up. What this right here, command context, means is now I want to be very specific for it to do specific changes. So I'm going to give it a specific command like rewrite this, but in a friendlier way. So I'm going to give it some command. Oh, yeah, zoom in, enhance. There we go. And then I'll put 2 colons. It could be, I want to say like regular, like grammar English, but like some weird coding. It could be that, it could be 2 dashes, something that's not like in normal grammar, basically the symbol, so that it knows to just basically separate this over here is different than this over here. So this is our command, and then we're going to give it the context or what we want that command to work on, being very specific. Friendly way to this sentence. So we have the command and some character or something to separate what we wanted to do it to. So I'm going to press enter. And now it focuses just on that text and rewrites it in a friendlier way, or does another command with something that I gave it. So that's usually what ChatGPT, you're mostly going to be using it. You're going to feed it information that you find and then have it do something that you want with that information. Let's segue into, well, I would say like best practices, but do not use this as like Google. That's not what ChatGPT is for. It's not Google. It's not here to research for you. You have to do that separately. So I'm like, cool, I like that new response. I'm going to copy that, go to my email, and paste. So like Frankenstein, change this, keep all of that. So now I have this email. I'm ready to use this email now. So it's finally, now this is like a final email that I'm ready to kind of send off or use. But that's what we want to do. We want ChatGPT to get us close as we can to what we're looking for. And then we could give it a specific command that relates to a specific thing so that we can have it do like a specific task. Say, hey, I want you to rewrite this or redo this. Instead of saying rewrite, because you don't want to put rewrite email and leave it where it has to infer the previous conversation. The more, it's like a college intern, the more you could be specific about what you want it to do, the better response that you're going to get. Let's talk about shift enter. This prompt down here is pretty small. But let's say I have a job where I just did this today, Kanban board. So let's say I want to write a blog post about this thing called a Kanban board, something simple. Basically, the process is go to Google, find information that someone nicely wrote up. So I'm going to say, yeah, all of this. Actually, I want a blog post. I want this. So I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm going to take all this information from wherever you find it, Google, some website, doesn't matter. I want to use this information rather than have ChatGPT try and come up with it. You don't want to use ChatGPT as like a Google search, and you don't want to use it to give you information. You want to give it information. So for example, I'm going to give it a command saying, summarize this into a LinkedIn content post. And then I'm going to give it another command, use this format, and I'm going to say title, hook, bullet point, summary, and conclusion. Cool. So let's take a look at that prompt. So bring this over here. Cool. Nice. There we go. So this prompt says summarize this into a LinkedIn content post and use this format. Like give me a title hook, give me a bullet point summary, give me a conclusion. I'm being very specific and I'm just adding commas as I add new commands. So now I'm going to give it information. So I'm going to just do : It's really arbitrary what you do. You could do an equal sign if you want, but it's just some character so it knows that, hey, this is not, it's not like part of it. So the next thing we want to talk about is called shift enter. If you're like, hey, I don't have enough real estate to like paste, just hold shift, press enter, and you get a nice little space right here so that you can paste all that text. So we've got the command at the very top, command. We have our separating colon, as it's focusing. And then we have the information the context, or basically information we took from a website. So we're like, cool. Because ChatGPT is going to give a way better answer than if I just asked it, hey, what is a Kanban board? And give it to me in a Facebook post. If you rely on it, it will hallucinate. And that's what we don't want. We want to give it, use this factual evidence or factual information and do this specific task with that. It's like I'm going to keep going back to college intern example. So cool. Hey, master the workflow, unlocking power. Again, remember ChatGPT tries to be like very, very smart with his words. It's like, no, translate for average Joe. So whatever answer gives me, boost your productivity with Kanban boards or visual guide to getting stuff done. That's way more understandable than what it gave out first. So just gonna zoom up that way, it kind of stops the auto zoom. Nice. So that I'm like, okay, that works. That's good enough. I got this. And let's say I'm like, I'm gonna take this, copy it, paste it in my notebook, or whatever notebook I'm working on. And then I'm going to tweak it. I'm like, this bullet point summary, I don't know. Let's go. We can ask it a command. So give me just the top 3 bullet points. Enter. Cool. Then it just gives me the top 3. Let's say I just want these. Copy. So I replace this with this. Cool. So we're like Frankenstein. We're tweaking our final result that we want. We're keeping stuff that we want, taking stuff that we don't want, and piping it back into ChatGPT so it gives us something better. And then finally, yep, this is now ready to ship or use, and the final whatever the result. So Shift Enter, role objective. We went through these. Nice, making progress. Art of the follow-up. That's what we talked about. Using your digital notebook. Let's talk about best practices. Okay, number 1, ChatGPT hallucinates. Do not use ChatGPT for information of just like, what is a Kanban board, and write me it's going to be very generic as far as what, of course, I fed it information about this. So if I give it a more broader kind of thing, it's like very verbose. It's like, that's why the best way to use ChatGPT is find, copy, or research what you want, and then pipe that into ChatGPT. So like, let's say I wanted to write a topic on, webinars as funnels. Actually, website versus funnels. I'm not going to go to ChatGPT and say, what's the difference between a website? I could and say, what's the difference between a website and a funnel? So it's like, yeah, multifaceted, information hub. So it's trying to do this part off memory versus if I took a blog article, especially a blog article that's like top of the page, I'm going to copy this, pipe it in ChatGPT and say, read this, then answer what is difference. Be more generic. So I'm going to do my colon, Shift Enter, because I just want to format it so I can see the command, the difference between the command up here and all the information that we pasted down there. Enter it. So now it's going to rewrite that. And it's going to say, okay, this is the difference between a website and a funnel. This answer is going to be way more better. Look, website define, funnel, purpose, great, versus like this, where it's like, okay, it's trying to rely off its own information. You want to do your research before ChatGPT because that's going to give you much better answers in the long run. ChatGPT is not Google. And then lastly, personal information. Do not put personal information in it about you, your address, identifying information, because at the end of the day, it is owned by Microsoft, or they have a partnership, and they're going to be building a model basically off you, just the same as like Facebook. So they'll sell your information at the end of the day. So you want to not put personal information, but you're going to anyways because of, let's talk about experts. We're going to segue here. ChatGPT can be, remember our format is for a prompt, it's role, command, context. So that role that it could be, let's divide that role into one of two categories. It could be a business related role, or it could be a life, we'll call it life related role. So business is like, hey, I want you to be a CEO, a marketing head, a sales manager, chief financial officer, a copywriter. And And then you're going to say, these gives you examples of like prompts. Hey, as a copywriter, write me a compelling headline for a new marketing campaign. Or, hey, you're a social media manager. As a social media manager, what are the strategies that you would use to boost our followers on Instagram? As an operations manager, so we're giving it persona and then our command. How would you improve all the information? So this is under business related. So these are just business roles that it could be. The other are life experts. And that's the cool thing about ChatGPT, is not just using it for business, but also for life. It could be a life coach. A lot of people are using it as a therapist, especially as a doctor, because it kind of is, it's a little more efficient than trying to search WebMD for like ailments. I've done family members needed a knee surgery. It helped diagnose. Another family member, an issue with their cat was excessively licking, so we determined that it was just anxiety. The cat's just bored at the end of the day. It's not like, it wasn't parasites, it wasn't a skin rash. And so we used it to basically deduce what possible solutions or what possible issues could it be to narrow it down. It could be a lawyer, a nutritionist. Hey, write me a meal plan for a male that's 180 pounds that wants to lose 2 pounds a week. You could do a personal trainer, financial advisor, relationship. A lot of people are using it for a relationship coach too. A lot of people are using it for online dating too. It's like, you don't know if your text that you're getting everything's been fed through some ChatGPT conversation. But those are the two different types of experts that it can emulate to help you accomplish whatever task that you have. Let's just do enhancing results, because this is just kind of like, actually do the art of the prompt. This is good. So prompts, you want to start with an action word, write a catchy description, or draft an introductory level, or write a welcome email. So some action word, create, draft, write. You can also start with a question. What are, how to, can you? It can generate a list. Give me a list of ideas. This is kind of cool. It's like, instead of, let me show you this. So instead of for a list, it's like, give me a list in a table format of top sushi rolls to try at a restaurant, and rate by deliciousness. It's Friday. We're running out of ideas for examples. But what I want to show you is that it has the ability to create tables. So you're like, cool. Here's all the sushi rolls on one side, ingredients, and then maybe a deliciousness rating. Actually, that's pretty good. Dragon roll, rainbow roll, pretty funny. But basically, the answer that you get, you can have it stylized in a table, which is real handy. So that's why I generate a list, generate a table, give me a comparison table for our product versus competitors, create a schedule for weekly posts, provide context you could give more information about, use role play, always trying to be as specific, there we go, being as specific as possible, use role play, or you could use role play, provide context, give examples, don't hesitate to refine it. We're not going to get into URLs and tones. That's mostly just the more advanced stuff. Cool. Let's summarize. So we did the prompt. Best practices, we're not going to give ChatGPT personal information. We talked about roles and experts. We talked about life and business examples. And lastly, the free course. Cool. So yeah, that's ChatGPT Basic 101. ChatGPT does far more than just this. I mean, you could feed it PDF books, you could have it create lead magnets, you could have it troubleshoot your relationship issues. Here's the last pro tip, is keep the same conversations going for things that you need to go back to. So if I need to go back to client, me, and talk just about business related stuff, I have a chat conversation that's just, all I do is talk about my business, or with it about my business. And then it has a whole pages on pages of chat history. So you can always go back to that so that you can pick it up, and then it gets better over time. And even what I do is sometimes I'll go do my research on Google, dump a bunch of information and dump it into ChatGPT and then start asking it questions. So that way it's kind of like primed, or you're basically training this little conversation by feeding it a bunch of information so that you can get better responses out of it. So yeah, if you found this helpful, found this cool, there'll be a link in the bio eventually for free training so that you could get this free guide for ChatGPT, quick references, you get this free, and then my free beginner tutorial, which actually goes into step-by-step what I just did so that beginners can get started with ChatGPT to start using it for your work or your life. So I'm Jonathan Cunha. Thank you so much for joining me on this webinar. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next webinar. Bye.